What's up, everybody? Kim Becker and Ryan Blackburn here with your weekly AMA for the Denver Nuggets. They are on All-Star break now. Of course, Nikola Jokic repping the Denver Nuggets this weekend in Salt Lake City. Coach Malone, coach of the team LeBron, right, Ryan? Going to be an exciting time this weekend for those guys.
It'll be very weird, Kim. I'm just excited to have a little bit of a break here. I'm
Yes.
sure that Nikola Jokic was excited to have a break, but he's going to be stuck in Salt Lake for a little bit. So we'll just see. We'll just see what he's like when he comes back to Cleveland after the All-Star break.
Hopefully he can just enjoy it and have some fun with it and see some of his buddies and just kind of let it be a nice, relaxing weekend. I know we talked before, Arif and we were talking about the whole NHL All-Star break and how it's kind of just like a party for them. So maybe it's the same for the NBA, right? This All-Star the game.
We'll see. It was funny. There was a clip that came out after Luka played against the Nuggets on Wednesday night. And he was asked with what he was most excited about for the All-Star break. And he said the flight to Mexico on Sunday night. So that's hilarious.
Good
and
for him.
I'm unsurprised. Good for him, for
not
sure.
At all. Not at all. Well, we'll get your take, actually, speaking of Wednesday night, on this last game and kind of where the Nuggets stand right now going into the All-Star break. And then we'll get to some questions that were sent in from fans. But 41-18 overall is the record for the Denver Nuggets. Not too shabby. They are absolutely dominant at home, have only lost 4 times in Ball Arena this first half of the season. What are your main takeaways about where this team stands right now?
Yeah, 27-4 at home is a crazy, crazy number. And a couple of those losses came without Nikola Jokic. A couple of them were just kind of weird, unnatural losses where you don't really expect that same thing to happen again. So my biggest takeaway is that this team has become unbeatable at home. There are very few teams that have come into Denver and actually put a scare on the Nuggets. And even when they do, Denver kind of gets back in front and they're able to use their momentum, able to use all of the talent that they have to be able to win at home and protect home court. For a team that's probably going to be the 1 seed in the NBA playoffs, let alone the Western Conference playoffs, that is a really, really exciting prospect that as long as you have more home games than the other team, you should be in an advantage for much of this time. So that's probably my biggest takeaway. But the other one is that, man, the rest of the team around Nikola Jokic is still just so very good. I know that Jokic gets much of the credit. I know that there's a lot of guys that, hey, no other All-Stars on the team, but I do think that the rest of this supporting cast is the best it's ever been. And it's the reason why the Nuggets are ready to actually compete for a title this year.
Well, that leads me straight into our first question here, which you just answered. I'm going to have you elaborate on it a little bit. Is this the best Denver Nuggets team in franchise history?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, and it's an exciting factor for this Nuggets team, for Nuggets fans that have been waiting around for a team like this for so long. Look, you've got the MVP of the league, the 2-time MVP of the league, who might be on his way to win a 3rd straight. We'll see about that. But when you have a leader like that, and then you have a supporting cast around him that is perfectly tailored to be the team that he needs around him, where you have perimeter defense, you have interior defense, you have cutters, you have shooters, you have creators, you have basically everything under the sun that you need. And then Denver went out and got Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant at the trade deadline, which that was the biggest weakness for the Nuggets team, was non-Jokic minutes. And I think that they've at least push towards solving that. So there's a lot to like about this group. There's a lot to think, hey, maybe this group wins the most wins in franchise history. That's actually a possibility. And this team probably has the best chance of any of them to win a title at the end of it. So it's going to be a little bit just to confirm that it's the best team in franchise history, but I do think that it is.
Wow, very exciting. Okay, you kind of just touched on this a little bit as well. It's like you're just leading me into these next questions here, but what role will Reggie Jackson play when he is available for the Nuggets?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and my apologies for completely leading in.
Good. No, it's great.
Reggie's going to be really good for this Nuggets team. He's a veteran. He's 32 years old. He's one of those guys that's been around. He knows what the role is. He knows what he's going to be asked to do. And there's a vacancy behind Jamal Murray as the backup point guard now that Bones Highland is out the door. Reggie is a veteran who's done it all. He knows what this team is going to ask of him as a veteran. He's been on the Clippers for a while, but before that he was on the Detroit Pistons and the OKC Thunder. He's seen it all. throughout the eras and knows what this team is going to be looking for from him. And he's going to try to lift him up while Jokic is off the floor specifically, but even while Jamal Murray is off the floor. There will be times where those guys share the court, Reggie Jackson and Jamal Murray, but I do think that especially for the regular season, just these next 23 games that the Nuggets are going to play, Reggie Jackson is going to be the guy that's running pick and roll with Thomas Bryant. And those guys are going to try to create some offense. Those guys are going to try to set the table for the rest of the group that's out there, Bruce Brown, Vlatko Cancar, Christian Brown, guys like that. And they're going to try to make it easier for that Nuggets second unit in order to score. And as long as they can do that, Denver's not going to be hemorrhaging points as often as they do. And that's really what the goal is.
Okay.
It's to find a combination with Reggie Jackson, most likely, that will be quality during the playoffs, that will be able to survive during this time. And we'll see if that actually happens, but I do think that Denver's ready for it.
Okay, we're all ready for it. What's the ideal bench lineup for the Nuggets in the playoffs, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, this leads into a very interesting talking point. I kind of hinted at it before. I don't think that Denver's going to go with 10 guys in the postseason. I think that's going to be tougher. But for the regular season, I think they're going to try 10 guys. They're going to try Reggie Jackson, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Vlatko Cancar, Thomas Bryant. Now, one of those guys is probably not going to be on the court, and Jamal Murray will be on the court for the playoffs. My guess is that it's probably Christian Brown. So, or it honestly might be Reggie Jackson. It honestly might be him. But I do think that Denver's going to be experimenting. They're going to be trying to stagger Aaron Gordon at times. They're going to be trying to stagger KCP at times. There will be times where it's Reggie Jackson, Bruce Brown, KCP, Aaron Gordon, Thomas Bryant. Or Zeke Naji will be in there at times when Denver needs somebody who's a little bit more defensive. The short and sweet answer, Kim, is that I just don't know. I think that Denver has their starting lineup down pat. That group with Murray, KCP, Porter, Gordon, Jokic is the best starting lineup in the NBA. But what they do in those other minutes is still a complete mystery. They're going to have to try to figure it out. And by adding Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant into the fold, there are no questions in terms of who is most deserving. Who are the players that are going to fit best together? I think Vlatko really proved a lot. I think Bruce Brown obviously is a very important piece to what Denver's trying to do. But in the non-Jokic minutes, Bruce Brown's been bad. So they're trying to figure out what to make of this bench unit. They're trying to figure out what to do. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's a little bit different than what people were expecting. Maybe Reggie Jackson and Jamal Murray are playing together and they're playing with Thomas Bryant, and it's not a good defense, but they're scoring and they're trying to keep pace. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm a little bit concerned just from a stability standpoint, but they have options, and that's probably the most important thing heading into the playoffs.
Well, another thing that is, of course, concerning every season for every team is injuries. And right now, Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon both dealing with a couple of those things. Are you concerned about the injuries to these two players?
Yeah, I think so. I think that this is one where with Jamal, here, let me preface this by saying Michael Malone said prior to the All-Star break that the Nuggets were hoping to get Murray and Gordon back in Cleveland, which is the first game back from the All-Star break. They're hoping that those guys can play, that they'll be ready to go. Jamal Murray's been off of this knee for a while. They're hoping that giving him 2.5, 3 weeks of off time combined with the All-Star break will give him enough time for that knee inflammation that he's dealing with in his right knee to go down. Obviously, he tore his left ACL. So his right knee has been compensating. It's been working overtime to try to keep up. And this is an injury, or this is a preface to an injury that Derrick Rose suffered back when he first tore one ACL in his one knee, and then had compensation issues in his other knee, and that's the reason why he tore something in that knee. So the Nuggets are trying to avoid that at all costs, obviously. Right. They do not want to deal with anything like that, so they're giving him rest. They're giving him off time. Tom Thibodeau was the coach of the Chicago Bulls back then. Michael Malone is not Tom Thibodeau. He is going to rest his players. He is going to give his guys a little bit of off time. So Denver will have an opportunity to just give these guys the time that they need to get healthy, because that is the most important thing for this Nuggets team, is they want them healthy and ready to go in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think what we found over the course of these last few weeks here is that Denver can survive an injury to Jamal Murray, a short-term injury. Right. They can survive a short-term injury to Aaron Gordon. They have enough guys in their rotation that you can feel pretty good about Vlatko Čančar stepping in and filling a role, Bruce Brown stepping in and filling a role, guys like that. And now that Reggie Jackson is aboard, you will have some other guys that can do that in place of Jamal too. But with Aaron Gordon, I think that they're just trying to give him like strict off time, and it was a contusion that he was dealing with, not necessarily a stress injury. Okay. So it would surprise me if he wasn't back. Okay. But I think that they'll be okay. It's one of those things that you've got to navigate, and Denver has that opportunity to navigate it as a really good team.
Right. No, absolutely. And we're excited about that. We talked about the positives, we talked about what could happen if this Denver team continues on the trajectory that they are on, possibly being the best franchise that Denver has ever seen, this Nuggets team. But we also have to look at some realistic situations, and we don't know how the second half of the season is going to go. We've chatted about this a little bit, Ryan, in previous AMAs, but is there any team that you really fear that the Nuggets could play in the first round of the playoffs this year that maybe would not lead them to that championship game?
Yeah, I think that right now, if I was to look at the playoff picture, the standings, and I think you're going to see Minnesota as the 8th seed. You're going to see the Los Angeles Lakers as the 13 seed. Crazy. Golden State is somewhere in there. I don't know exactly where, but I think if I were to look at actual teams that I fear, I'm going to say short answer, no. Okay. No teams that I fear in the first round. Can there be a team that upsets Denver if Denver doesn't have their fastball, if they don't play well? Sure. Okay. That's how this works. And Denver's not a juggernaut to the point that they are unbeatable at any circumstance. Yeah. But I do think that if I was to think of, so if Denver wasn't playing their best, then the Golden State Warriors could beat them in the first round. Okay. Yeah. If the Los Angeles Clippers were to drop to the first, to a play-in side and then have to match up with Denver, they would be a team that I would probably fear, but I don't really expect them to actually get there. Okay. Minnesota's fine. I don't fear them. I can't imagine that Denver really fears them either. Although Karl Anthony Towns coming back, it's just a little bit of a different dynamic that Denver would have to deal with. But in general, I don't fear any team, nor should Denver. They have to carry themselves as a team that is head and shoulders above that crowd. They do not want to deal with that. And even if it is LeBron James, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, whatever the Los Angeles Lakers are throwing out there now, Denver can't enter that kind of a series thinking that they could lose. Yeah. Like, I know it's LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It should not matter. You are better than that team by a lot. Yeah. And just approaching it like that will be healthy.
Okay. All right. Well, we talked about this next question. This is our last one here a little bit as well. But Nikola Jokic has won the MVP the last 2 seasons. He is favored to win for a 3rd straight season. Do you think it's actually going to happen, Ryan?
I think so. I think it's going to happen. And that's a crazy thing because I remember after that January 28th game, how I was pretty reactionary in saying that this was not going to happen again. I still think that a lot of people are wanting him to fail in this, that they do not want him to see it. They have some voter fatigue. They want him to cede that control of the award to somebody else, to reward somebody else. That is going to be a thing for the final 20 to 25 games of the season for all these teams. But I do think that Nikola Jokic is currently in the driver's seat. He is favored at every book. Basically, he is averaging a triple-double on 70% true shooting while on the top seed in the West. Like, the dude is unbelievable. Yeah. And he has been consistent. He has been impactful every single night. And even in his bad games, like, the dude is still putting up crazy numbers. So I think that there will be some matchups in March specifically where Joel Embiid has an opportunity to really come back and prove that he is that dude.
Yeah.
Whether he actually does, we will see. He will come to Ball Arena on March 25th. So there will be or it might be March 27th. It's one of the two. Okay. Giannis will be there for the other one. Okay. So there will be a lot of
great
opportunities
for
those guys to like play each other. Yeah. And those are the matchups that I'm going to be circling and looking at and saying, okay, this could actually decide the thing, or it will give at least a large impression. So if Embiid comes into Denver and says, okay, I'm also going to put up 45, 15, and 8 again, then that will provide at least a different impression if the Sixers and the Nuggets have a very similar record. So I do think that it's still open, but I do think that Nikola Jokic will win because I don't think that he is going to cede control of home court advantage like that to an opponent.
No. Seems very, very difficult to bet against that and think that anybody else could win that. I mean, I understand the whole participation trophy thing. You know, you want to see a different name. You've seen Nikola Jokic's name there the last 2 seasons, but at the end of the day, that is where the bar is set and he's still meeting it and exceeding it. So, I mean, that's what you have to look at when you're looking at who should win this MVP. That's what it's all about.
How about just play better than the dude?
Exactly.
Play better than him.
You got to
if you want the MVP, if you want it, go play better than the dude. That should not be this hard.
The bar's been set. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you so much to everybody tuning in. Thank you guys. Make sure that you're following Ryan at NBA Blackburn and following Mile High Sports at Mile High Sports on all of our social media channels. We will see you guys next week for another AMA after the All-Star break. They'll have one game, right? They come back Thursday night, so we'll be able to talk about Thursday night's game. But Ryan, enjoy your break. You deserve it.
Thank you, Kim. You too.